we're going to look at B's forehand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let 3 forehands here run a little slower. And then we'll jump into the details. And B is a really high level player, so this is really going to be fun. There are not many things that strike you right away as off. So let's go through some of the details right here. So grip is great. So you are in a semi-Western, it looks like, a little difficult to see, but that's probably a little bit more over than in Eastern. What I do really like is how you prepare and turn. And you're doing a great job moving up 2 balls here. So let's look at the preparation. Good unit turn. And it all starts, actually I like that here, with your split step. So this is something that on newer players you don't really see. So at this point, when B here's up in the air, basically, that is when I'm assuming his opponent is making contact. So this is really good because it primes you to get ready for your shot. So as you're coming down here, you see that a lot of things start to happen in sync. So the left shoulder helps, and the left arm helps to bring the right shoulder around, right hip around. The racket face is above the wrist. And you're really getting a good turn. Racket face closes here. That's good. You're loading on the outside leg here, so semi-open stance. And I'll let this run through, and this is why I asked you to give me clearer footage, because this I definitely would have missed had I only worked on some fuzzy footage. So we're seeing that here, the racket head points down to the ground. That's not necessarily necessary. That's to me a little bit of style, but what is necessary is that the racket head should be below the wrist, and it is slightly, so I think that could maybe be just a little bit more. But what's even more important is that the racket face is below the ball, so that you can swing up to the ball. So you're coming forward here, you're making contact, and this is where I'm thinking we get into a little bit of trouble. To me, you're falling off to your left a little bit because your contact point is a little jammed. And we'll see that especially from the back. So now we could always say, well, you're starting your preparation too late, or the ball's coming too fast, or you're not moving your feet enough. And I don't think that is the reason. So if I let this run at real life, let me get that back to 100%, and I'm letting this entire point run, we do see that you're definitely not slow. You're not preparing too late for the shot. You have really good footwork. So it's none of the things that if we just see everything in real life, you know, we could point at either too slow, too late in the preparation. None of those are the reasons why you're jamming yourself a little bit. It has to do with the fact that you are not getting into a complete lock-in position. So all of this here, from split step to turning out sideways, preparing the racket the way that I described it, the grip, all of these things are excellent. However, what's missing is that the butt of the racket points to the ball. So you'll hear that, and I'm very careful to not add the snap to it. But there is a lag position, and I'm going with what Dr. Mark Kovacs is teaching. The lock-in position, again, is the end of the preparation. So all of this that you did from here up to here is all preparing. You are spacing properly, so that's also not the reason why you're a little jammed. But the reason is that you're never getting an almost 90-degree angle here. And when you're now in this wrist position, bringing your racket forward, number one, you're sacrificing power and you're sacrificing control over the ball because you're missing one pretty fundamental element. And the next thing is for you to make comfortable contact in this wrist position. The ball will have to be where it is right there. And that, to my mind, is not the ideal contact position. And that we will see then later, definitely when I put you next to some other players. You see that they're hitting the ball further out in front. After you make contact, everything is good again. Right? We see here that you're pronating your forearm, that you're coming over the ball, but you're coming over the ball pretty quickly. So there's not a lot of extension. And that to me has to do with the fact that you're not getting into the lock-in position. So follow through here is good. Let's go back here and look at the three other forehands that you're hitting if you get into that lock-in position. So here would be where the racket is laid back a little bit more. And again, you're not getting to the butt cap to the ball. Right now, your butt cap is pointing away from the ball this direction. And again, you're a little close, and you'll then see that you're falling out to the left instead of with that really good load that you have here. Look how low you are. This is really, really good. You should be able to really come through and let your hip and your shoulder rotate into the ball, but you almost have to make room, and you're definitely not transferring your body weight into the ball. You're falling away too much to make room. All right, we're pulling out the big guns here. So I'm going to show you Roger Federer and Andrei Rublev to show exactly what the lock-in position looks like. So you see that here, it's a running forehand, so really good footage. You had a couple of running forehands there. The preparation, racket head is ready above wrist to be brought back and then drop down and through the contact point. But before that happens, we're seeing here up to this point, the racket face looks down, but this is the crucial moment, this position here. You see that the wrist opens up, and this is, from this perspective, of course, it doesn't look like 90 degrees, but this is almost 90 degrees. So you clearly see that the butt cap points to the incoming ball. And if you're missing that step, you're just sacrificing a lot of pop and control on the ball. Because again, all of this here before, the turning, the unit turn, and then the loading on the outside leg, this is all to store elastic energy. And it gets released effectively if you have that lock-in position. If you don't have that lock-in position, you are not able to really release that energy well that you clearly are generating. And then you also see the effect of this position here as it starts on the contact point. So this position remains in place from the lock-in position to contact point. And now we're seeing that he makes contact way in front of his body. It's not as easy to see from this position because we're looking at it a little head on, but it definitely is in a position where now shoulder and arm come through and into the ball, and the energy goes forward. He's not falling away. So let's look at Andrei Rublev. Same thing, racket head above wrist drops, and now this position, you see that lag. And I've actually put a video on that deals with exactly that position. And there are specific drills in that video, and I'm going to reference the specific time tags in the description because I don't think this will be a huge change for you. It's just something that you haven't paid attention to. It could be that you're not getting into this position because you're holding on to the racket too tight. You want to use your upper body too much to really rip through the ball, and it's just basically constricting the kinetic chain because you're not getting into this position. And I think this is a really great representation of the perfect position here. And then we see the contact point this time really clearly way in front of his center of gravity. And even though he's being pulled out to the side, he stays completely balanced. So let's look at your forehand from the back, and then I want to compare you to Guy Monfils, who is getting into a really good lock-in position, as does everybody. Every good forehand player gets into that position, as does every backhand player. That is just one of the fundamental things that every good forehand has. So we see that here, butt cap to the ball, and this is the position that you're not getting into. We see that here in a second. So regardless of where you hit that ball, so Guy Monfils is just outside of the tee here, whether you hit that ball back behind the baseline or inside the court, the preparation, that lock-in position has to happen at all times. And we're seeing that here now. This is where you should be in the lock-in position. Right? The butt cap should be pointing to the ball, and now we're seeing a clear difference. Your racket is here, and we just see that at the very edge of the frame here, the butt cap and the tip of the racket are basically both in line with the incoming ball. And you're not getting into that position. And then it's really difficult to make contact out in front and letting your body weight come into the ball again. And we see that here. There's no forward momentum. You're falling out to the side because you have to make a lot of room there. So I don't think it's going to be a major change for you. Again, there's that video that I have out where you have very clear drills that you can do, but I think you can unlock some major potential for your forehand. So if we're looking at it from the back here one more time, you've now seen what it should look like. And again, all the other components are in place. It's just that missed opportunity to get your butt cap pointing to the ball and then having the tip of the racket basically in line also to the ball. And that is the reason, again, why you have to make contact where you are making contact, which right now we see then, if I'm letting this run, that you're falling out to the side, but not really coming through and into the ball. And there's not as much extension as you would like to really get all the benefits of what you're really preparing here. Because again, those are great fundamentals. It's that one little component. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you think. Let me know in the comments, shoot me an email, and I'm sure this is not going to be a super difficult thing for you to change.